Hi, if you're new around here, my name is Brooklyn and I make travel and creativity vlogs, a lot on writing and reading, which is why today is a book haul. I have way too many books. I was on a recent trip to visit my family in Indiana and I kind of went crazy thrifting and buying new purchases as well. So I have a lot of books to get through. Some are classic, a lot are on my TBR. Some are books that I already own, but these are different editions or different cover art. So yeah, since there's so many, let's just go ahead and get right into it. I guess we'll start here. We'll start supporting local business. My cousin runs a thrift bookstore online called Fox Used Books. You can follow her on Instagram. That's where she posts all the books that she has, and you can put in the comments sold if you want the book or any questions about it as well. And so I will insert a clip here of what her home library looks like. So she allowed me to peruse her shelves and take home a heavy bag of goodies. First up, and I realized you're too far away to see any of the books, so let's bring you closer. There we go. You may be asking, Brooklyn, why are you doing this in a garage and in the back of your car? Well, it's because I have so many books that I did not want to take them out of my car to go find a cute spot to do a video and then just have to pack them all back and bring them back to my car. Okay, first up, The Tenant of Wildfell Hall. It's an Anne Bronte, one of my favorite YouTubers, Darling Desi. I believe this is her favorite of the Bronte sisters, and I've never read of it. And I want to start reading more classics. I am a terrible person and I've never read Jane Austen. I have read the Brontes. Wuthering Heights is my favorite, but I want to expand my horizons. So starting with Miss Anne right here. I also got quite a few sci-fi, Dandelion Wine, Ray Bradbury. I just read him for the first time in the fall and loved it. World of Weird, which is just a bunch of spooky stories. The Supernatural Omnibus, just another collection of spooky stories, which are my favorites. Block and Bradbury. Robert Block is the author of Psycho. And this is just a collection of some of their stories individually. Speaking of Wuthering Heights, I had to pick up this beautiful copy of it. I love the front of it. I was also able to get quite a few of the Anne of Green Gables set. We've got 2, 6, 7, 8. I thought that, oh yes, hold on. I actually have 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, and 8. I have one at home, not in this edition, but I have one at home and I just need 5. And I guess I should get one in this specific edition and then my collection will be complete. Incredible Tales by Saki, horror, humor, and irony. And a Lovecraft, which I have never read any of H.P. Lovecraft. So this is the case of Charles Dexter Ward, a man shut up in a madhouse with visions of horror. But were his visions and memories madness or a truth too terrible for telling? I love old school sci-fi and horror cover art. I was watching a whole YouTube video about how the art of horror cover art has been lost since the 80s. But there are a few authors in that genre that do it justice, like Grady Hendrix and My Best Friend's Exorcism. That cover art is amazing. Last 3 from Fox Used Bookstore. Little Men. I'm so excited about this. I love Little Women, of course. And so I've never read anything else by her, but I did watch the movie Little Men, and I love the movie Little Men. So I have 2 Alcott books, 8 Cousins and Little Men. So now let's move on to Barnes & Noble, since we'll kind of teeter between used and new. Oh, forgot one, Virginia Woolf. I know, don't hate me. I've never read any Virginia Woolf. So she let me take A Room of One's Own. Whew. Coffee break, because it's a little chilly. Okay, Barnes & Noble. If you follow me on TikTok, then you've already seen this haul. But I picked up this cute bag, so many books, so little time. Barnes & Noble was having a sale as well of buy one, get one 50% off of certain ones. So the price here wasn't that bad. But I got about 6 books. 7. One I accidentally put in my Books A Million bag, just remembered. So since we have her, we'll just start with A Mexican Gothic by Sylvia Moreno Garcia, and my grandma has been raving about it, so I saw it and picked it up. Lovecraft meets the Brontes in Latin America, and after a slow burn start, Mexican Gothic gets seriously weird. A ghastly treat to read. I love when books are ghastly. Serpent and Dove, a witch and a witch hunter thrust into holy matrimony. I mean, that did it for me. I love tropes like that. This looked really cool. City of Dusk. Darkness falls, gods rise. There's 4 realms: life, death, dark, and light. And there's 4 people with special gifts that shouldn't be working together, but then they do end up working together to help the city that's been abandoned by the gods. Poetry. I love Nikita Gill, and I haven't read this one of her. I love fierce fairy tales, so I'm sure this is going to be incredible. And then I saw this while I was on the checkout line. Someone had just left it. Soft Thorns, Volume 2, Bridget DeVoe. And this is what captured me. Poetry is the crystallization of a moment, written in the language of the soul. So I've been slowly ripping mine apart, burying pieces of me in books, the internet, and in the hearts of my readers. Last 2 from Barnes & Noble. The Raven Boys, Maggie Stiefvater. I love her. I love her series Shiver. It is one that I reread every year. And then I'm very excited about this one called Lost Boy, The True Story of Captain Hook, by Christina Henry. All children grow up except one. It's a tale about Peter Pan and the friend who became his nemesis. A nemesis who may not be the black-hearted villain. What is wrong with me today? Villain Peter says he is. I love books that are a new spin on classic fairy tales. So that's everything from Barnes & Noble. So we will move on to Goodwill. So I made several Goodwill trips. If you'd like to see a clothing thrifting haul, put it in the comments and I would be happy to. Because the Goodwills here, they're just on something different. I don't know what it is. Frankenstein is the first one. So my house burned down October 2019. And I lost a lot of my books, including my favorite copy of Frankenstein. It was so cool. It was a little taller and skinnier than this, and it had like a graphic novel type of cover art. So if you know what I'm talking about, send me a link if you know where to find it, because I haven't been able to find it. But I did pick this up because I needed a copy of Frankenstein, and I liked this cover. Anne of Green Gables. I have a copy at home, but it is a hardcover and does not have this beautiful depiction of Anne on the front. Guess we're just gonna wait for it to pass.
1 hour later.
A few moments later.
1 eternity later.
Okay, we should be good now. I picked up this copy of The Outsiders, which one of my favorite books, made me want to be a writer. I currently have a copy at home, but it is not this cover. And this cover was the very first one that I ever owned, so it's nostalgic. And it has bonus material inside, which includes a interview with Essie Hinton about why she wrote it. She was only 18 when this was published, and she actually wrote it about her best friend who got jumped. And the day he got jumped, she started writing the story of the Soches and the Greasers, based on her actual life in Tulsa, Oklahoma at the time. So I never read Gone Girl, but I heard it was good. And this book is by the same author, called Sharp Objects. There's a reporter in a psych hospital, and she has to go home to take care of her mother and her half-sister, but then she has to figure out a murder. It seemed really cool. Water for Elephants has been on my TBR for years, and my copy burnt up, and it was this exact cover, so I picked it up, and hopefully I will finally read it. Got this, Akin to Anne by Ellen Montgomery, and it's just other tales by her, who wrote Anne of Green Gables. Someone Like You. I was a huge Sarah Dessen fan. Still am, honestly. I read her a lot in high school. I loved Someone Like You, and I don't remember if I had a copy at the house, so I thought I would be super nostalgic and read through this one. That was the first Goodwill store that I went to. I think I have maybe one more. I picked up The Story, which is Max Lucado and Randy Fraze, and it's the Bible as one continuing story. So it's everything Genesis to Revelation, but told in story format, using the NIV as the source. And I've heard of it, and I've never read it, and I thought it would be fun just when you need a little further understanding of certain Bible stories or concept. I've never read a Ted Dekker, but I've been wanting to, and so I picked up my first one called Bone Man's Daughters. This guy is a detective, and then there's this serial killer that is trying to find the perfect daughter, and he kidnaps the detective's estranged daughter. So the guy goes after, maybe he's an FBI agent, he goes after the Bone Man without the FBI backing, but there's a theory that he, the FBI guy, is actually the Bone Man. So I'm excited to see what the twist is. I've heard great things about Ted Dekker. Bridge to Terabithia. I cried my eyes out the first time reading this. Anybody else? Yes? My mom took me to see it in the movies, and she was so mad. She's like, how is this for children? Tale of Despero. I picked it up for fun. I'm definitely going to try to read it. I never read it. Where the Red Fern Grows. This is one of my dad's favorite books because of Winn-Dixie. I mean, come on. The movie, the book, and last from Goodwill, Black Beauty. Again, I had a copy of this and it burnt up, so I picked up this pretty one, and I was like, oh, that looks like me if I ever decided to actually learn how to ride a horse. I do have stories of being thrown off quite a few times because of my own fear and anxiety, but we're not going to talk about that. We're going to live vicariously through Black Beauty. Okay, so that's everything thrifted. I'm going to show you one random thing, and then we'll go into Books A Million, and then that'll be it. Went to something in Indianapolis called The Garage, which is basically like a food hall, and they had different stands of food, and they had a couple shops, and so I went into this one shop called Pumpkin Fish, Gifts and Goodies, and I saw this and I couldn't resist. It's the unofficial Disney Parks cookbook. Everything from Dole Whip to the Ronto wraps, maybe the buffalo chicken egg rolls. Oh my gosh. Or the cheeseburger egg rolls. Maybe this will actually get me cooking. Okay, last haul, and this was a big one because I have never been to a Books A Million before. I don't know if we have them in Jersey. I'm definitely going to check. We probably do, and I'm just ignorant to it. But I went to the one here and had a little bit of a field day. But, you know, I told my mom how much I spent, and she's like, well, at first she gasped and was audibly concerned. But then she was like, you know, I guess books last forever, so it's okay. And I'm like, yes, exactly. Someday my children will be reading these books that I picked up at Books A Million. And I got some cute artwork too. So, non-book but book-related is this beautiful, oh my god, map of Neverland. I love Neverland. I love Peter Pan. I love the little phrase at the edges of the map. It's just so precious. So, I'm really happy about that. We'll put it there as decoration while we continue. She is too fond of books, and it has turned her brain. I'm excited to put that on my bookshelf with all my new pieces of literature. Oh, I'm so sorry, ma'am. There we go. I am a sucker for cool book covers, as most of us are. I do enjoy a blind date with a book, though. If you've never tried that, try it. But this is called Outlawed, and I was immediately drawn to the cover. Plus, it was the bargain price of $7.97, so that helped. But it is a Western tale, but of a woman. So she's barren in a town in the Old West, where if you're barren, they thought you were a witch. So she runs away, joins up with a Wild West gang, led by the Kid, which I'm sure is a reference to Billy the Kid, if not trying to be the Kid himself. But yeah, I love it. It says, in the year of our Lord, 1984. In the year of our Lord, 1894, I became an outlaw. So I'm sure I will live all of my cowgirl fantasies through this book. I couldn't resist this one. I kept seeing it everywhere I go. I love Dolly Parton. I've never read a James Patterson, but I can appreciate James Patterson from everything I've heard. And they wrote a book together, if you're not aware, called Run, Rose, Run. And Dolly has a new album out by the same title. It's a young singer-songwriter on the rise and on the run, is determined to do whatever it takes to survive. I'm excited. I mean, Dolly's an incredible writer, and so is James Patterson, so I can't imagine it's bad. What's next? Oh, Nicholas Sparks' Walk to Remember. Again, had a copy of it. It wasn't this copy. It was the movie poster copy with Mandy Moore, but I will settle for this one because I really want to reread it this summer. This is The Dark Between the Stars, and aside from the beautiful book cover and how heavy it is, I love Atticus' poems. I love his, like, the pages are like the thick, really fancy type of paper. The day I met you, I began to forget a life without you. The Love Hypothesis, I've been seeing it all over my TikTok, decided to give it a try. Not a science girl, but I started reading it, and Olive, the heroine in this, the main character, is hilarious. So they start a fake dating relationship, and she says something, and she's like, oh, I'm familiar with the trope. And he's like, what? And she's like, never mind. And it's hilarious. So she's very relatable, and I'm really enjoying it so far. And then I had to join the Bridgerton book bandwagon. So my friend in Brazil told me about the Bridgerton books when season 1 came out, and I guess they're really, really big in Brazil, and all her friends read them in high school. I had never even heard of the books until the show came out, and so I heard, obviously, that the books were better, because usually they are. And I love Penelope, and at the end of season 2, I just needed to know, will Penelope ever find happiness? Like, this poor girl. So I picked up Penelope and Colin's story, and I finished it in a day. I love Julia Quinn because she's very easy to read, and I feel like she makes historical romance, which, I mean, light on the historical. There's not a lot of history happening here. It's just the time period, the decade. But she makes it really accessible and very easy to understand and go along with, and her characters are really interesting. So I really enjoyed it. I'm going to read Eloise's story next, and then my friend just texted me this morning saying she just finished Francesca's and that she enjoyed it. So yeah. Oh, there's one more left in the bag. I love a good horror. This detective gets invited to her estranged brother's engagement celebration at this newly renovated hotel, and I believe someone vanishes. The fiance vanishes, and the detective has to help, and another woman disappears. So yeah, I love anything about a newly renovated creepy hotel or hospital. You would think that I have no life or work or anything with the amount of books I've just bought, but you make time for what you love, right? Okay, so there's not much in this bag, sort of. Oh my gosh. So, like I said, I want to read the Brontes. It contains Agnes Grey by Anne, Jane Eyre by Charlotte, The Tenant by Anne, The Professor by Charlotte, Villette by Charlotte, and Wuthering Heights by Emily. And they're all beautifully colored in fun covers. These are what the covers look like. So I love matching sets, and I figure this will inspire me to definitely read the Bronte sisters. And then last but not least, Grady Hendrix. I mentioned him earlier for my best friend's exorcism. So this is the Final Girls support group. So it's literally a secret support group full of final girls. If you don't know what a final girl is, it's the girl that survives at the end of the movie. Think Sydney from Scream, right? So it is a support group of all the final girls, and then someone starts killing the final girls. So I cannot wait to read this. Grady is always funny and creepy and just, it makes you shiver, especially the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. That book just, oh, there's a really big bird flying this way. What was I saying? Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. It was very hard to put down, and then really made you think and feel grossed out even after reading it. So I'm sure this is not going to disappoint. Thank you so much for hanging out during my book haul. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got some good recommendations and ideas for books to read or books to buy. Comment any ideas, comments, book suggestions down below. I would love to hear from you, and make sure to subscribe for more content on everything from creative writing to book hauls to travel. We have a lot of fun around here. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.